All right, let's just dive right in. We are about to go on a pretty wild ride, one that connects ancient mystics with some really cutting-edge physics, and it all hinges on one single beautiful geometric idea. Seriously, this is going to be a mind bender.
So let's start with a massive question. What if there's a kind of mirror world hiding just beneath the surface of our own? People like the poet William Blake and more recently thinkers like Terence McKenna, they weren't just spouting poetry. They were describing what they believed was a very real, inverted reality that you could actually access. And get this, they thought it was the absolute key to understanding consciousness itself.
And that really sets up this central puzzle for us today. Is this whole mirror world idea just a powerful metaphor? A beautiful piece of poetry? Or, and this is the big one, could they have been describing something literal, something you could actually map out with real, honest-to-goodness mathematics? Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to start with this idea of a mirror world. Then we'll find the geometric key that might unlock it. After that, we'll see how that same key seems to fit both the human brain and the entire cosmos. And finally, we'll ask the big questions. Can we actually prove any of this, and what does it all mean? So, first things first, before we can find the key, we have to really understand the lock we're trying to pick. And what we're talking about here are two totally different states of being: our normal, everyday waking consciousness and this other, expansive, inside-out mirror world. I mean, look at this. They're practically perfect opposites. Our normal reality, it feels localized, right? Like you're in your head. Our brains operate in a clear hierarchy, and our focus is on the world out there. But the mirror world is the complete inverse. Consciousness becomes vast, expansive. The brain's hierarchy just dissolves into this single integrated network, and the focus becomes entirely internal. So, how in the world do you get from one to the other? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. It turns out there's this weird, fascinating concept from pure mathematics that gives us the perfect tool. It's called circle inversion, and it is a precise geometric method for flipping reality completely inside out. Okay, try to picture this. Imagine taking the entire universe and pulling it all through one tiny circular keyhole. That's kind of what we're talking about here. You pick a circle to be your mirror. Now, any point that's super close to the center gets shot way, way out to infinity. And any point that's way out at the edge of everything gets pulled right into the middle. It's a perfect mathematical inside-out flip. Now, the crucial part here is that this isn't just a random scramble. It's something called a conformal map. And all that really means is that it perfectly preserves angles. So why does that matter? Well, because preserving angles means you're preserving the fundamental relationships, the information. The core structure of reality survives the flip. It's not destroyed, it's just inverted. Okay, so let's take that geometric key and try our first lock, the human brain. We're going to see how this idea applies directly to what's happening inside our heads during some of these altered states of consciousness. And folks, this is where it gets absolutely incredible. You see, a growing number of researchers are now proposing that circle inversion isn't just a clever analogy. They're saying it's a direct, literal model for a physical, measurable event that happens in our brains during these profound shifts in consciousness. And here's the evidence they point to. In our normal waking state, your brain is hierarchical and it uses backward-traveling brainwaves to process the outside world. But in certain altered states, like those induced by DMT, that hierarchy completely dissolves. The brain becomes globally connected. And get this, the brain waves literally reverse direction. They start traveling forward, focusing on an internal reality. This complete geometric inversion of information flow, some researchers are calling it antenna retuning. And this neurological flip seems to correlate perfectly with the kinds of otherworldly experiences people report. I mean, this could be the very mechanism that explains seeing the blueprints of reality itself, these self-transforming balls of light that seem to be made of pure language, and watching the entire world dissolve into its underlying linguistic and geometric code. Okay, pause for a second. We've just connected this abstract geometry to the biology of the mind. That's already a huge leap, but now we're going to zoom all the way out. We're taking our key from the human mind and trying it on the very fabric of the cosmos itself. This brings us to a pretty radical theory called the primordial superfluid substrate model, or PCMOD for short. The core idea is that at the most fundamental level you can imagine, the universe is really just one single substance, a kind of cosmic quantum superfluid. And in this model, everything we see, all the matter, all the energy, even space-time itself,
It's all just different kinds of vibrations or patterns happening in this one cosmic fluid.
And what's so cool about this model is how it offers this really elegant solution to some of cosmology's biggest mysteries. So instead of having to invent some unknown particle to explain dark matter, PSMO just says, hey, that's the bulk gravitational effect of the superfluid itself. And instead of a mysterious dark energy, it talks about a dynamic cosmic pressure coming from the fluid. It's trying to solve two huge problems with one simple underlying substance.
And here it is. This is where the pattern just snaps perfectly into place. The exact same geometric pattern, that inside-out circle inversion flip that models the shift in our brains, also appears to perfectly describe the fundamental dynamics of this cosmic superfluid. The inward pull of matter and the outward expansion of the void, they're just two sides of the very same geometric transformation.
Right. A theory this grand, it's going to need some extraordinary evidence. And that's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? As fascinating as all this is, how could we possibly test an idea like this and drag it out of the realm of speculation and into real hard science? Well, here's how. The theory actually makes a very specific, testable prediction. It's based on this idea that the cosmic superfluid could have a kind of physical memory, an effect sometimes called morphic resonance. The hypothesis is simple. If the fluid remembers patterns, then creating those patterns should get easier every time you do it. So the experiment would be to take a particle accelerator and just create and destroy exotic particles over and over again. The prediction? Poseidon says the energy needed to make the next particle should be just a tiny bit lower than the one before it. And that's a result that the standard model physics says is absolutely impossible. This is real, falsifiable science. So we've traveled from ancient poetry all the way to a testable physics experiment. Now let's just take a moment and reflect on what this could all mean for who we are and what our place is in this incredibly strange cosmos. You know, the huge takeaway here might be this. Our consciousness isn't just some random accident happening in the universe. It seems to be structured like the universe. It's a dynamic, geometric matrix built on the very same principles, one that's capable of flipping its own perspective from inside to out. Your sense of you can navigate this radical shift because, at some fundamental level, it's built from the same stuff as reality itself. Which leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. If a temporary geometric flip inside our brain can give us a brief glimpse into this infinite inverted reality, what would a permanent transformation even mean? What happens when those doors of perception aren't just cleansed for a moment, but are thrown wide open for good?